It's scary too. She says she's on the verge of a nervous breakdown because she fears that her 14-year-old daughter Jamie is just a few days away from joining a gang called Jumping Into. Okay. Dora has had an enormous problem with her children, more than any mother, I think, should probably be asked to sustain. Your oldest daughter is very ill. What's wrong?
She's physically and developmentally disabled. She has cerebral palsy. And
she has cerebral palsy. Your next child joined a gang
when he was 13.
And was sent to prison and is still in prison?
By the time he was 16, was convicted of first-degree armed robbery.
And this is now your third child?
That's not all. 2 months later, he got out, and 2 months later, he got convicted again because he went back to the same thing.
He went and did the same thing he was in for again?
Repeated the same crime 2 months later.
Now, let's talk about the child that's bothering you the most now, with a son in prison and a daughter who is very ill. What has happened to your daughter?
What hasn't? She's acting like one, dressing like one. All of a sudden her behavior changed. Her grades dropped. She's leaving home. I've had to call the police. It's like I'm reliving the same thing all over again.
Now, you found gang-related stuff in her room, right?
Writing, letters, gang signs, different colors, bottles of liquor.
Now, if she knows her sister is that ill, and if she saw what happened to her brother who's in prison, why would she want to go the same way?
That's a good question.
Now, Dora's life has been threatened by gang members who were hiding her daughter. What happened?
She was gone overnight. I went by myself in the middle of the night to go look for her. I had an idea of where she was, but I didn't know exactly the house. And so when I drove up, I could see the colors, the same, she looked exactly like them. So when I was walking to the door, about 5 of them came out. And I was determined to go in there and get her, whether she wanted to or not. I was going to get
her. Were you alone?
Mm-hmm.
You were alone and 5 gang members came out. What did they do?
They kept saying she wasn't there and she wasn't there. And I said, I'm sure she was here. I'm sure.
His name is Green Eyes. That's not her name, but that's the name she wants us to use. Recently joined a gang, so she's in the gang.
She's in the gang.
How long has she been in the gang?
Since December, I believe it's 4th, just before Christmas.
You say you knew something was going wrong, but you didn't know what.
Yeah, there were signs that she was leaving. You know, her attitude was changing. I would see gang writing on tablets around the house and stuff. And I asked her all the time, are you in a gang? Are you in a gang? No, Mom, I swear to God, in my life, I'm not in a gang. And then I found out she was.
How'd you find? You found a letter, right?
Yeah, I was.
What was in the letter?
I was cleaning her room, and I ran across the letter, which I usually read her letters. It was a letter she was writing to one of her homeboys that was in prison, saying how she got jumped in and who jumped her in, and by detail.
Okay. You say this has been very hurtful to you because the two of you have been very close.
Best friends.
And now, no longer close.
I don't trust her.
What did she do to get jumped in?
She got beaten up by 2 boys.
And that jumped her in, right?
That jumped her in.
You told us you begged her to get out of the gang?
Yeah, I told her I would get jumped out for her because I don't want her being beaten up again.
Let's bring out Green Eyes and find out what's going on. Green Eyes, how'd you get involved in the gang in the first place?
I've been hanging around them since I was like 7th grade.
Mm-hmm.
So
7th grade. And they told you they respect you and they've been watching you and they want you as a hot member of their group, right?
Yeah, something like that, yeah.
They were particularly impressed because you have beaten up people?
Oh yeah.
Been in drive-bys?
I've been involved in the drive. I haven't done it.
You were arrested for grand theft auto?
Yeah.
What was that
Lots
like?
of times. They never didn't press charges or anything. All the times I've been arrested, they just let me go.
How many cars have you stolen?
A lot. I don't know. I can't count how many. Like over the years, a lot.
If any of us lived next door to you, would you steal our car?
Huh? I stole my neighbor's car before.
You stole your neighbor's car, so yes, you'd steal ours. Will you be willing to kill someone? Or would you be willing to kill someone?
If it came down to it, yeah.
You told our producers and your mom that she's always been there for you.
Yeah, she's always been there for me.
Okay, you're not a child who hates her mom.
No,
This
I
is
love
not
my
our
mom to
problem
death.
today. Why would you be hurting her so much?
I mean, when I got jumped in a gang, I didn't go out and say I hate my mom. I would do it this because I'm gonna get back at her. I just did it from.
Natalie says she is one of the most vicious, violent, and feared gang girls around. I've never had anybody tell me that, Natalie. You're the first. I think that's part of the problem. Is it not?
Yes.
Let's go over. You have been in a gang since you were how old?
10.
10 years old. When I said I'm fascinated, Natalie, it's because we think of gangs as a fairly recent thing. Natalie's parents are gang members, so she's the second generation. We're seeing a lot of that, right? Second generation gang person? Okay, tell me about yourself. Your mother and brother and father were gang members, so you gangbangers, and you became one too. How old were you when you moved out of the house?
I left on my own at the age of 10.
Okay. Where did you live when you moved out of the house?
I lived with friends, with a lot of people.
All those people put you up for free all those years? Must have
Yeah.
been tough. Was it?
I took care of myself.
Okay. Have you been in drive-bys?
Yes.
Have you been the shooter?
Yes.
You must turn to the friend here who's only been in drive-bys and has not been the shooter.
I don't believe in drive-by, so.
You once shot a house and almost killed the 3-month-old baby.
See, that's why I don't believe in.
You've done home invasions. What is a home invasion?
Well, I went in and I just tied them up and took everything they had.
Robbery. You have how many arrests have you had?
I had more than 50.
More than 50. Have you been in juvenile detention?
Yes.
Okay. Have you been shot?
3 times.
Where?
My neck, my leg, and my stomach.
Where was the first one?
My neck.
How old were you?
10.
That's a bad scar. How many times have you been raped?
3.
What do the 3 dots on your hand stand for?
Well, I have 3 dots that represent, because I didn't want to get a teardrop, that represent when you shoot somebody and you kind of like, I don't know, you kill them,
Do you get a dot? Do you get a dot for every one? Old daughter Nicole, but she wasn't 15 then, was she?
No, she was 11.
11? 11.
11.
Somebody was asking me about ages, so let's go down to the 11 bracket now. You said this was a total nightmare.
Oh,
How did she change?
Well, I literally sent her off to school one day in her, regular 11-year-old clothing, and she came home. She had big hair. She had her eyeliner out to here.
Yeah, but you know what? A lot of people look like that. I used to
not
look
at
like
11
that.
years old.
Okay.
She had the black lipstick on. Her clothes was changing. Her friends were completely different.
How do you know that just wasn't a rebellion? I mean, I would think...
Well, she started getting into fights constantly.
Okay.
The phone would ring at least 3-4 times a day from school. She was getting suspended all the time.
Okay,
she was
now
getting
you're
kicked
talking.
out.
And she ran away a lot, right?
I lost track at 48.
48?
48 times.
Kid does not want to be home.
No, she
She
didn't want
also
to be.
became violent to you and your husband.
Oh, yeah,
What
she-
did she do?
What didn't she do? Well, she kicked holes through our doors. She would push me around constantly and then turn us in for child abuse when we weren't even, doing anything. We didn't even
How many
spank
times
her.
did she turn you in for child abuse?
10 times.
Don't give any of the kids listening that idea. This is not a great idea.
Well, no, it didn't work because, of course, we got investigated, and the first time it was a major insult to my family. You know, this lady came.
If your kids
she came over and she said, well, Nicole's claiming that you're beating her and you're not taking care of her and all this other stuff. And I said, well, take her down to the hospital, get her an MRI, and you're not going to find anything. She has no broken bones. She has nothing, and she just...
She threatened you with knives, and this is going to sound funny, but it probably isn't. She stabbed the waterbed while you were sleeping.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Did you have a flood? What happened?
Well, no. Well, we had the liner up and everything, but no, we woke up about 2 o'clock in the morning to body temperature water, and it was like, God, this must be one big hole, you know, for so much water. And sure enough, it was pretty well sliced open. And then from then on, we locked our doors at night because we were afraid she'd come in and try to kill us. She was always threatening to kill us.
How was she jumped into the group?
She hasn't really talked to me much about it. I really didn't want to know about it. She was gone for 15 days one time, and that's when she got jumped in, you know, because...
Now, here's something that confuses me. You have told us, and I don't think this is something the audience knows, that the gang members threatened your life. What happens, girls, when you all say you love your mother, and one of your homies says, great, I'm going to kill your mother?
No, my homeboys don't do that because I'll kick their ass myself. That's on everything.
This is showing you, right? Okay.
This was a rival gang, and they were calling up and, you know, telling Nicole they were going to kill her and everything, and I didn't believe her. I mean, I would not believe a thing she would tell me.
Has lived through every mother's worst nightmare. She lost not one, but 2 of her sons to gang-related violence. She got so angry, she has decided to fight back. And Lorna has received national attention and was one of those persons of the year, of the week by ABC News anchor Peter Jennings. She has... She's created a television show called Drive-By Agony. Before we hear about it, what happened to the... Can you tell us? Are you all right to tell us?
Yes. Sally, something terrible happened to my family and the night before Thanksgiving. It was 8:30 p.m. My son was shot by some gang members, and they came off of my block, and they went around the corner where my son was standing at with his girlfriend buying perfume. And they turned on the lights and they started shooting. And I heard the gunshots vaguely as I was getting, you know, finished with Thanksgiving dinner like normal mothers do. And then as I opened the door, I could barely hear my daughter, but I could hear her screaming that somebody had shot her brother. And so I went around the corner, ran, of course, and I saw my son laying in a pool of blood. And I didn't hear, like, you know, the ambulance coming or any sirens, so I immediately rushed home, grabbed my truck, and my husband, my son, and a friend of his put him in the back of the truck, and we drove him to the hospital. And when we got there, I found out that he was shot in the neck, and that severed the artery to his brain, and that was the beginning of a nightmare for my family.
What happened in the
After
night?
that, I tried to get some attention, you know, from media, but there was none, and it was
No,
just
but
like,
did that kill him?
Oh, yes, it killed him. Every day when we went to the hospital, they told us that his brain waves were leaving.
Bad as you, as violent and as ashamed at some point in her life for her behavior. Rosemary found the way out. What's the way out?
It's called Clean Slate LA, and it's a laser program.
It's a laser program?
It's a program to remove tattoos.
What are you saying when you take off a tattoo?
For me,
Yeah, for
a new
anybody.
beginning.
A new beginning. After years of gang banging, you started to hate yourself. Why?
Yeah, I was ashamed of what I signified.
Is so great. He's been with us before. His name is Lawrence Young. And Lawrence, he is also a former gang member. And he not only got out, but he works full-time getting other kids out before it's too late. And he is a man who has written a book called A Parent's Guide to Gangs, which, if there are 9,000 kids in gangs in the United States, they need his book. Why are these girls joining this gang in the first place?
I think primarily the number one reason that young people join gangs is they need to belong. They want to belong to something, so they join a gang. They call it a family. They want acceptance. And what a gang gives most often is just, well, they say it's unconditional, but it's not. If you look at the truth. Our love is unconditional, but the gang's love is not.